Julian, how are you, mate? Thanks for jumping on a call.
Hey Bailey, thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm very good, thank you. It's good you're the first person I've interviewed for BitBite where the time zone has been like in line. Uh, I'm normally in Australia, so like the last four interviews I've done, I've had to do it like midnight or 1 a.m.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm in Paris at the moment, so this is the first time I'm like at a reasonable hour doing an interview, so it's nice.
I remember I lived in Australia for 7 months, and
Yeah.
I got used to the what is it 8 or 9 hours time
7.5,
difference depending on where
yeah.
you are. Yeah, I love Australia. It's my favorite country.
It's a good spot. Where did you stay? Where were you living?
I was traveling all the way through the country, the middle. I did the East Coast. I did basically the South with, Adelaide and Melbourne and all that kind of cool stuff. The only thing I didn't really do, even the North, I visited
Huh?
a bit. The only thing I didn't do was the West, like Perth and Broome. They're still on my bucket list.
Yeah.
And then I stayed, like I traveled for like 3 months, and then I stayed 4 months in a place called Palm Beach at the Gold Coast,
Yeah.
close to Springwood. No, actually, the bigger one would be Brisbane, close to
Hmm.
Brisbane, like 1 hour from Brisbane. It
That's
was
so
super
good.
nice. Yeah, loved it.
Gold Coast is my favorite. I'm from Adelaide, so it's great that you've been to my city. It's probably the
Yeah.
most boring city out of all of them, but it's a
I
good
don't
spot.
know. If you like wine, it's great. We did a wine tour and we
Yeah.
met amazing
Across the
people
valley.
there. People are so friendly and so open there. It's so cool. Everyone loves to do party. I ended up after this wine tour, I ended up in a secret bar somewhere, like
Yeah.
a secret bar behind a bar.
Uh-huh.
It was so cool. I loved Adelaide actually.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, next time you're down here, you let me know, and I don't know any secret bars, but I'll find a cool spot to take you.
Will do, mate. Will do.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, obviously we're catching up today to have a chat about yourself and kind of your influence and work in the Bitcoin space at the moment. So um, I most people would be familiar with you and Relay, but for those watching that might not be familiar, give us a quick introduction to yourself and also a quick elevator pitch for Relay as well.
Sure. So my name is Julian. I'm born and raised and live in Switzerland. I have studied psychology and business administration. I've worked in banking and management consulting. I spent some time in Silicon Valley and spent some time in Australia while I was studying. And right after I finished my studies, it was pretty clear that I don't want to work for someone else, but I want to be entrepreneurial. I want to build my own startup, and I was fascinated by Bitcoin already back in 2015. So I then decided in 2017, 18 to become self-employed, and then 2019 I started to work on Relay. 2020 we actually launched Relay, and Relay is the easiest way you can get some Bitcoin in Europe. It's a Swiss-based Bitcoin app where you can buy and sell and send and receive Bitcoin 24/7 within a minute. You don't even have to register yourself. You can just, with a couple of clicks, buy Bitcoin and get them right into your own non-custodial wallet. It's all mobile, it's super easy, and it has become the number one Bitcoin only brand or Bitcoin only on ramp in Europe.
Yeah, that's awesome. Something that I really resonate with your personal kind of journey is uh, it's happened for me as well. Like getting that first taste of self-employment, and then having to like go back to a 9 to 5. I did that for a year. I started a couple of businesses young, and then a couple of them flopped, and jumped back into a safe 9 to 5 job and worked as a mortgage broker. And I did like a couple of years of that, and I was like, I cannot work for anyone. Like as soon as you taste
Yeah.
self-employment and like that entrepreneurial lifestyle, it's impossible to go back. So that's something that definitely resonates with me.
I can imagine. I hope I never have to do that.
Nah, I'm very thankful that I don't have to, which is awesome. Something that another thing that we share is we both have bachelor degrees in psychology, which is cool.
Nice. That's cool.
You have bachelor's or honors?
So I did my bachelor's. So how it works in Switzerland, at least at the university where I studied in Bern, capital city of Switzerland, I had a major and a minor. So I did 120 ECTS, like these points, credit points. I
Yep.
don't know if you have them as well. 120 in psychology. So that was my major, and then my minor. You can basically, add it up on many different topics if you want, or fields of study. I then just chose to do business administration for the remaining 60 ETCS. And this allowed me then to actually do my master degree in either psychology or business. And I chose business administration. That's also how I then ended up in Silicon Valley, did at a university close to San Francisco. I did an exchange semester. And basically in the end I had an MBA, so a Master of Business Administration. That's also how I got into entrepreneurship. So I knew from the beginning that it's super interesting for me to learn more about humans, about psychology, about how we work, the different fields of personality psychology, social psychology, even like the biological and neurological aspect of it. And then obviously work and organizational psychology and just everything. It was super fascinating to me, even clinical psychology with all the depressions and all the sicknesses or kind of how do you call that, just disorders, psychological disorders and all that kind of stuff. But I always knew that I didn't really want to work in that field, so that's why I also always at the side did something that business administration, where I thought I could make a living out of. But I didn't think that I would end up as a quote unquote tech entrepreneur, because I was really, really bad in everything that was tech related. I still am. I'm not a numbers guy. I don't understand. I can't read code. I don't really understand tech that much. I'm super fascinated and super interested in it. But to this day, I've I do need to rely on my co-founder Adam, my CTO, and the whole dev team that we have, because from a tech point of view, I really suck.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I'm the same with psychology. I did like my 3-year degree and then worked in the field for a year and realized I hated it, or just like wasn't for me. And I was like, man, I just did this whole degree, and I felt like I almost had to stay, but jumped out of it and jumped into finance and then business. But I'm glad that I did do the psychology degree now, because I see glimpses of it in like just day-to-day things in my work, and the way that it kind of influences decisions, or I feel like it gives me a almost advantage, because I kind of view things through a lens, a psychology lens, which is quite unique, especially in like entrepreneurship and business. As CEO yourself, would you say that you've had that experience too? Are there anything leadership style wise for you, or the way that you run Relai, or just like as a CEO in general, that has been influenced by your psychology degree?
Absolutely, everything in my professional, but also in the rest of my life. I think everything is highly dependent on how well you understand human beings. They say 50% of business is psychology. I would even argue it's more. People usually look at me a bit strange, like ordinary people, let's say, look at me in a strange way when I say, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a CEO, like I'm in business, but I also studied psychology. The first thing, like, why would you study these two things? They don't match, they don't go together, which is not true. They actually go very well together. I would even advise everyone who wants to start a business to study at least a little bit of psychology, or read a couple of books about it, because in the end it's really about having a vision and trying to persuade people, like your co-founders, your first employees, your investors, your partners, your customers. It's all about human beings. It's about persuading people to follow you on this journey, and to understand your users, for example, the people that use your product, understand their needs, their wishes, implement them in an efficient way together with your team, because you cannot do it yourself. You need developers, you need marketeers, you need operational people, you need support people and everything. So we're now a team of plus 20 people at Relai. And obviously then leadership, recruitment, all these kind of things arise, and they all have to do with people. So it's even though we're a tech startup, and basically at this point almost every company is mainly a tech company. It's not really true. It's not mainly a tech company. It is kind of perceived as mainly tech, but actually the main ingredient to success of a company is the people. So the better you understand people, I would argue the better you will do in business, and the more successful you would be. So that's why I think it's a very, very big aspect of all of our work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much like across the board. Any startup or business is designed to solve a problem that people are having. And if you can understand people and psychology, it makes that process easier of fixing a problem. So yeah, right. Absolutely agree. But for you personally, Julian, I love asking this question pretty much straight off the bat. What is your orange pill story?
So in 2015, I had this friend of mine who was a techie. As I said, I was not. I was interested in many things, obviously psychology and stuff like that, but also in, stocks and trading and investing and all that kind of stuff. And then he was a super geek who was always updated on the latest and technology, the newest gadgets, but also the newest kind of things that are going on in tech. And so he at one point he comes to me and says and tells me about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So he shows me basically his portfolio. I don't know what provider it was back then. I don't think Binance already existed, but it looked like Binance looks today. Very shiny, very, a lot of lights, red, green, it goes up and down, all these different logos. I remember he had some Ripple, he had some Bitcoin, obviously, he had some ETH, didn't exist yet then, but he had some other kind of whatever name coin or whatever already existed there. Actually, already a couple of them existed. And he showed them to me and said, look, this is super interesting. So these are kind of digital assets. They all have some sort of use case. They all fluctuate in price. Like every minute or even every second, the price goes up or down. And you can trade them 24/7, and you don't need a bank for it or any, depot. You don't need any third party. It's basically money or some sort of monetary asset, like a stock, that lives on the internet, and you can just trade it and send it anywhere you want 24/7. And this is what really fascinated me back then. I didn't understand how the blockchain or the different blockchains worked back then. I didn't understand anything of the use case of it. I didn't think Bitcoin is necessarily going to be a big thing, but I just thought it was very interesting that these things can work and have value without any central party, without any consent of government, of a bank or whatever. You can just do whatever you want. And I thought this is kind of the principles of the internet applied to money or assets or trading or investing, stuff like that. So that's why I was kind of hooked. And then also I wanted to buy some, obviously, but it was too complicated for me. So I just gave him $500 and told him, can you just buy me a Bitcoin and hold it for me? And then he said, yeah, sure. And then like a month later, it went up 10% to 550. And I told him, oh, let's sell again. I made some money. Sold the whole Bitcoin again, made some profit. But these $50 obviously was not worth it in hindsight. So this just shows that I didn't really understand it yet. Just found it interesting to play around with it. And then in 2017, I then finally really understood probably like the bigger implication that this could have. First of all, because it was still around, which I didn't thought. Like 2015, then 2 years later, 2017, Bitcoin was still at the top. It had a higher price, like more than double. I think it was 1,200 or so when I next really looked into it, which was beginning of 2017. It had a higher market cap. Obviously, there were way more different cryptocurrencies out there. So yeah, and there was more material, more content, more information to dive into there. So I really could see that in these 2 years, a lot of things happened, and I then dug deeper and deeper and deeper. Did kind of my rabbit hole, fell down the rabbit hole, did my research, listened to all the podcasts I found about the topic, read about it a lot, and then really understood that this has potentially very revolutionary aspects to it. And I wanted to even then work in the whole space. At this point, I didn't really, and then I, invested obviously a lot of my money, which was not a lot back then, but still for me, it was a lot. I invested, and then I got lucky in 2017. Obviously, everything went up, didn't matter what you invest in. And I was really fascinated about this whole crypto space. I didn't yet understand the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. I was just, I was just interested, but I did mainly invest already then in Bitcoin. And then I was also in the US, where this whole ICO bubble was really going crazy, which I thought what was I, 20 something, in my early 20s, I thought it was really, really fun to be in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco, when this whole bubble happens. It was really fun. And then I came back 2018, and I really said, look, even though this whole bubble bursted, I was pretty sure that it will go up again, and it will just continue to rise, and the adoption of Bitcoin would continue to grow, which obviously in hindsight it did. So it was also a good decision to become professionally active in this space. And by the time I founded Relai, and we really went live in 2020, I was then also convinced that Bitcoin only is the thing, is the narrative that will stay, and that this just Bitcoin versus crypto. Bitcoin is fundamentally different. Crypto is mainly startup investing. You speculate with different penny stocks, with different tech applications. Some of them might be to a certain degree successful, but most of them will fail. But then Bitcoin is really sound money. It's like a very foundational revolution of the financial system. It's the evolution of money, and so it will have a major impact, both financially and just for our society. So yeah, that's how I ended up founding this Bitcoin only startup called Relai. But yeah, back in 2015, that's how I got into Bitcoin first time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of people have had a similar journey, and it's cool every time interviewing people, like collecting these stories, because you find parallels between everything. It's really cool to see. So from 2017 to 2020, when you released Relai, and I believe that was from a hackathon event in Zurich. Kind of go through the process of creating Relai, like I guess from the initial idea that sparked, like what is the story there, and then the process of building it to its release in 2020.
Yeah, sure. So I think it was end of 2018 where I first had the idea for something like Relai, or I was looking for something like Relai to solve my own problem, but also to solve the problem of some of my friends, because I was already into Bitcoin, and so a lot of people asked me about Bitcoin who didn't understand shit about it. And I basically had to tell them, look, okay, so the process is like this: you sign up or you get verified on an exchange, and then there's this very complicated user interface that you need to use to buy Bitcoin. Obviously, before you need to send money there, and then you can buy it, and you open up a wallet. This is a different application, and then you send it there, and you need to make sure you hold your private keys and so forth. So this whole process took like a week or two, and it was very cumbersome. For most people, they was just look, fuck it, for $100 I'm not going to do that, because I just wanted to try it out, right? So this was the problem of my friends and family back then, that I couldn't really solve, and I didn't find a satisfactory solution or application to solve that. And for myself, I just wanted to have a way where I can stack sats on a monthly or weekly basis, regular basis. I can just say, look, I want to do dollar cost averaging. I want to do a savings plan, let's say $100 per week or per month or whatever. And then I just get it to my wallet. I could set up I could set up a recurring order with my bank or put in my credit card. And then it just, rolls. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to manually buy and sell these Bitcoin, whatever. And so that's kind of the solution I was looking for. I didn't find it. Also, really asking a lot of the Bitcoin freaks back then, the Bitcoin community in Switzerland, I was already connected to, and no one knew really a solution to that problem. But a couple of people then approached me and say, hey, I would like to help you build this solution. I think there's something to it. Sounds interesting. So that was the first time I thought that, okay, this idea could gain some traction. That there could be more to it. There could be something. It could be a market opportunity. So that was end of 2018. And then in March 2019, I participated at this hackathon, this F10 hackathon. I think now they rebranded it, but it's mainly organized by SIX, so the Swiss exchange. And they do this fintech hackathon. It's the biggest fintech hackathon for sure in Switzerland. I think even in Europe, it's quite huge. And then for 48 hours, you're just in the room. You don't sleep. You just get together with some people there. So I participated with my now co-founder Adam, and then we had 3 other people helping us that are now not involved anymore in the project. But it was super fun because there were some techies, some business guys, I think one legal guy. And then within 48 hours, really from the idea and the pitch I had, which was a couple of slides, not more, we created our first prototype, including, how would this work legally, from a process point of view, financially, how would we raise money for it, the pitch deck, the business model, how would we make money from it, and what would the front end look like, what would the back end look like. We even built the first clickable prototype, and then we presented all this to a jury, and they voted us into the top 10 teams there. So we didn't win, but I think we made like 5th place or something. So that was a first validation, first positive feedback, and another sign of, okay, yes, this could gain traction, right? So it's worth pursuing this one step further. So then we've built the whole, website, social media accounts. We started kind of building a community around this online, and didn't take long, maybe a couple of months, until we had an actual community with Telegram chats, with also a more developed prototype, or a proof of concept, or MVP, or however you want to call it. This was still on web, not on mobile yet, but it was already good enough so that people could try it out with real money. I still remember how, the first person actually bought 10 or 20 bucks of Bitcoin and got it to their wallets, to their Relai wallet. And it actually worked, and they said it was a good process. This was like fascinating to me. And yeah, from there it just went on, and we ended up raising a little bit of capital beginning of 2020, because we knew, okay, we can't go out with a web app. It needs to be a like polished mobile app, and we need some money for us to free up our time. I wanted to quit my job, and Adam, my co-founder and CTO, also had some projects going on. So we basically needed to buy us time to really work on that. And then so we ended up in quite a long process. It was quite hard for us to raise our first 20K. It was only 20K from 2 people, but we needed that money. So we were able to raise this in the beginning of 2020. I think it was March, and then in April until end of June, we were really like all in, focusing just that. And 1st of July 2020, we then went live. And from there on, it was pretty cool to see how much it was adopted, like the idea or the solution really landed in the market, even though the first public MVP, it was an app that was on iOS and Android, but it was really poorly designed. It barely worked. There was so much that so many bugs, and it really sucked. But still, people used it. And it's this, famous quote: if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you launch too late, right? So we definitely launched early enough because it was really shit. We were really embarrassed, but still people used it. So again, another sign of, okay, this could be something. There is a lot of potential in that. And because we grew a couple of months, like month over month, we had growth in user numbers and revenue numbers. We were then able, I think in October this year, so October 2020, to raise a good pre-seed round of like 300K from a dozen angel investors and one VC investor already. Half a year later, because we grew even faster after that and started to build a team and an actual company and everything around that, in March 2021, we were then able to raise 2.5 million, our seed round, from a couple of VCs, but mainly led by Red Alpine, which is a well-known VC here in Switzerland that invests in European tech. And from there, we were able to get our own broker license, obviously develop the technology and the product a lot, develop the team, and then we grew pretty fast to now plus 20 people, and we have had another couple of financing rounds and ups and downs and a lot of growth, a lot of things that broke that we fixed again, people coming and going. But yeah, since then we're just basically living the crazy startup life.
Yeah, it is a crazy life for sure. That's awesome. And something that I really do love about Relai is how well done, firstly, like the website is, like it's super clean, just like the color scheme is really nice, like just the most basic or the most bare aspect of it is just done really, really well. And it's like pretty intuitive. And I know that the app is too. And the thing that like personally, I would say that Relai really stands out with, like obviously you're in a like a quite, I don't know if it's like super saturated market, but it's a tough market to kind of break into and stand out in. Even though we're this early, it's still a pretty tough market, and something that Relai does really well. And I say this about businesses as well when I'm talking to other entrepreneurs that are looking to kind of start their idea that they have is find a niche and then find a niche within that niche. And I think that's something that Relai does perfectly and lives by that. Would you say that that was an intentional thing, or is that something that kind of just came as you were developing Relai, or was it kind of from day one very intentional to kind of double down on a niche within the market?
Yeah, both. I think that's a very good question, very good point, to find a niche in the niche. Because at the beginning, obviously, you want to do everything. So we wanted to be an app where you can buy all sorts of crypto, where you can hold them yourself, but also you can have it in custody, where you can trade whatever you want. And you can pay and whatever. But then we found that our niche is actually this Bitcoin only and non-custodial thing that also allowed us to be no KYC, or at least no kind of registration and verification. So this was the niche that we found, and doing this with a mobile app that is very intuitive and user-friendly and Swiss-based, with our very favorable regulation. Kind of this niche we have found in the whole, let's say, crypto niche, this Bitcoin only, non-custodial, no KYC, easy UX UI, and based in Switzerland niche. No one else figured that out, or no one else really focused on that. But we saw a lot of potential because it just makes it so much easier to buy Bitcoin and stack sats and hold it yourself. So we thought that there would be a big potential. From the beginning, parts of it we knew. So I knew that it is going to be non-custodial, because that's the only way how long-term you can keep it as easy as possible, even though the whole regulation that is now coming. And I didn't know that Bitcoin only was a thing first, but I soon found out, and I soon then also made, fortunately, the right decision that we stay Bitcoin only, because that also, from a regulatory point of view, and just from where the market is going in the next 5 to 10 years, most of these other cryptos will be irrelevant, and they're just basically startup investments and not real digital gold like savings technology. And to really focus on these things, also to keep the messaging very easy, so that we can keep the website and our social media communications and our blogs and everything just so crystal clear. That only came a bit later. But in the end, I think it's a combination of both. So from the beginning, we knew what kind of our niche is and what we want to focus on, but it developed, like the niche developed into the second, maybe even the third niche, only maybe in the first couple of months after we started. And then I think it was always our strength that we kept our focus, and that we were not always, but we started to become good at saying no, to really say, because you have so many opportunities that you could pursue, but we really make the conscious decision to keep a laser focus, to prioritize very strictly, and to really say no to a lot of things. A lot of investors came to us and say, look, I've give you XYZ millions if you start listing all these coins and stuff. We said no. We did have problems with Apple, and we felt inclined to kind of pivot to a web app again, but we said no in the end. So there are so many decisions that we had to make that were hard, but that brought us back to really, where is our core focus? What's our core competency? Where are we good at? And where can we be the best in the world, right? Or at least currently the best in Europe. And if you're not the best, and if you're not 10x better than all the others in this specific niche, in the first, let's say, 5 years of your startup, you're not going to make it to critical mass, and you're not going to grow fast enough. If we were to do like all the things that we wanted to do at one point, we would be spread too thin, and we'd be just all over the place, and we would have never made it. I think this clear focus and this clear niche helped us in the end, but it was there from the beginning, but also a learning process.
Yeah. And I hope people listening kind of understand the weight of how difficult that is, and how commendable it is to stick with a startup or a business's initial ethos when you hit that kind of like critical point of having to make those really big decisions, because they're not decisions you think about when you're in the idea phase of building a website or an app. Sorry, it's easy to be like, this is what we want to achieve, this is what we want to do, we're only ever going to be Bitcoin only. But then, in a year's time, when, like you said, you're presented with life-changing money or whatever it is, opportunities to drift away from that like initial ethos, that's where a lot of people fall. And it's super commendable that you guys have stuck to the vision, and obviously you're like reaping the rewards of that, which is really, really cool. Something that I want to go back to quickly, it's something that I'm more personally interested in as like a Bitcoin entrepreneur as well, is obviously you guys did some crowdfunding for Relai. Was there a decision process with that? Was it easy to decide to just do crowd funding? Obviously with that comes maybe having to listen to third-party opinions on how to run a business. And for someone who has bootstrapped kind of every business that I've worked on or project, could you kind of explain what was the process for you guys? Did you consider bootstrapping? Was it even a potential, or was it just an easy decision to go crowdfunding?
So it started earlier. Like, I think this is a basic decision every entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur needs to make, whether you want to go the bootstrapping route or whether you want to go the fast growing VC backed VC money route, right? And if there's pros and cons, obviously, if you decide to do the VC route, then from the beginning you are always raising, you're always diluting your share in the business, but also you'll be able to grow much faster, right? And that's we have consciously decided to go this route because we figured that in this space, as you said, it's already now quite saturated. There are so many players with a lot of money. Like just in Europe here, we have Bitpanda. They have a 4 billion valuation. I mean, they are spending millions every day just on marketing, you know. So they have such a huge budget, and they can grow so fast. Same with Coinbase and Bitpanda and all these other global players, not even talking about the medium to small size players that they are. They also very heavy. They have also, you know, millions of investor money backing them. In this space, to bootstrap a company is super hard. You're not going to make it to kind of a market dominance or even your niche. You will not be able to dominate your niche with, you know, just pocket money. In some other businesses, in some other industries, this can be possible, and this is great if you can do it, because then you're not diluted. You can just decide on your own. You can be very fast, and you know you will reap most of the rewards in the end of your business. But it usually takes longer, and you know it's more linear way of doing things, whereas the development is much more exponential in the VC kind of world. And so we decided to do that because we thought we don't have another chance. If we really want to go big, then we need to raise a lot of money. And so we did. So in one kind of pre-seed round where we raised 20K from 2 angel investors, and we did another round of 300K where we raised it mainly from angel investors, also one VC. Then we did a 2.5 or 2.7 million seed round, and then a seed extension with that was led by Ego Death Capital, and other VCs came in there, 4.5 million. And as part of this, we also did the crowd equity raise, because we figured we want to also have our community really participate in this journey and really be involved, because there's more retention, more referral, just more support from these users. We onboarded 900 of most of them were our users that are now recommending us and using us more heavily and stuff like that, obviously, and because they were also involved as investors. This was mainly the thinking behind doing the Crowdcube. So quite a big project that you need to know that it needs to be worth it, because 3 to 5 months you're absorbed with this project if you want to do this as an entrepreneur. And it also only works if you have a big community and like a B2C aspect of your business. Otherwise, this doesn't work. So yeah, I think these are the basic factors that influence the decision whether you want to go the fundraising route or the bootstrap route. But then I would certainly advise that if you go the fundraising route, one source of funds should definitely come from the crowd, especially, as said, if you're a B2C company. That absolutely makes sense, and we are also looking forward to do that again as part of our next financing round that is coming soon.
That's cool. I'll be looking out for that. That's awesome. And you're right. It's really good having the crowdsourcing ones. And yeah, it definitely makes sense that it's specific to maybe the industry you're in, because a Bitcoin like exchange app, it's near impossible to bootstrap that and go against these other companies that have a $4 billion valuation. So for that, definitely you have to go down that route, which makes complete sense. For the Relai app, obviously you guys have I think it's about 70,000 users at the moment. You've had more than 200,000 downloads, which is nuts. what are you seeing kind of demographic wise with your users? Who is Relay designed for? Do you aim this experience to a specific group of people? And then also, like, are you finding those people using the app, or is it a different type of Bitcoiner?
Yeah, so it's in the end, it's designed for beginners,
Yeah.
for people who are low tech, but still are interested in Bitcoin, want to learn more about Bitcoin, and want to get very easy, very quick access to Bitcoin. That was always the vision, the idea at the beginning. That was why we started the whole project, to solve this problem of people coming to me and we don't have anything. We as Bitcoiners don't have anything to refer. Now we have this easy app to refer to everyone, and it's self-explanatory. And within 1 minute, this person can buy Bitcoin and hold it him or herself. That's still the case. So this is still the main persona. At the same time, we also have another persona using us, which is the Bitcoiners. Just because, and that was me at the beginning. I was a Bitcoiner. I was able to use Kraken and put it into my self custodial wallet and stuff, but it was just too cumbersome for me to set up just a DCA savings plan, and I had nothing to refer my newbie friends. So part of our, I would say probably 20-30% of our users are these Bitcoiners that use our referral program. So they refer users to our app, newcomers to our app, and to make a bit of a referral commission of that. And they know they are referring them not to some custodial shitcoin casino like FTX that's going to blow up their money, but they actually, refer them to a company that adheres to the Bitcoin principles and ideals. And also just make it very easy for them to set up their savings plan, save and forget. They don't have to think about it. Peace of mind. They have their DCA and their sats are dropping in every week. So these are the two personas. In terms of demographics or geography, we are aiming to go global at one point, but we know it's a step-by-step process. So we started in Switzerland. Soon we open up to the whole European EU region. So we are now live in plus 40 countries and have active users in plus 40 countries. We're also available in 5 languages: German, French, English, obviously, Italian. These are kind of the main languages in Switzerland, and then also Spanish. So 5 languages. These cover basically the biggest countries in Europe. And we have most of our users in the German or DACH region, so German-speaking region, which is Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. We have a good first user base in Italy, France, and Spain, and then the rest, UK, the Nordics, and the Eastern Europe. They're all these other countries are more the long tail, where we do have first active users, but there's certainly a lot of room to grow still. And from what else do we have as an information? Gender, we have only like 15% of female users, unfortunately, 85% of male users, mostly millennials, between like 20 and 35. The generation younger and the generation older are also quite big, and then the older it gets, basically the less. But even 65 to 80-year-olds, we do have some users there as well.
That's awesome.
So in the end, it's designed really for everyone
Yeah.
in the world, but it's a step-by-step process on how we get to these people.
That's awesome. I'm waiting for the day Relay comes to Australia. I know it would be very difficult, but we always get everything last. Australia is the worst for this kind of stuff. Any app or product that's like for Europe or America, and they're expanding global, Australia is always the last. And it's especially for Bitcoin apps like Relay, it's tough with the regulations and stuff in Australia, which is a shame, because an app like Relay would be incredible. The only app I can think that even shines a light to Relay would be the Amber app.
That's
But
what I was gonna say. Yeah, don't you have
yeah,
Amber? Yeah.
yeah, we have Amber, but again, like with Relay, there's just that niche within the niche, and it still would be the same thing here in Australia. Like, the thing that I love about you guys is the various promotional stuff and things that you guys have going on that aren't huge things necessarily, but they're things that are important to like the user themselves. I think you guys have tapped into that well, what it is that the user actually cares about benefiting from. Like, for example, you have the 0% fees once a month up to 100 euros. You've got the revenue share plan where, you know, users can get, it's 50%, I think, for referring. Then you've got the auto invest plan, which is wicked. And then like you've got the non-custodial wallet. All these things, like they're things that Bitcoiners actually want. So I think you guys have a very good understanding of what a pleb wants on an app. And I think it shows really, really well. And another thing that is interesting about Relai is you guys are a Swiss licensed financial service provider. And so that means you're, I'm assuming it's similar to how it is like in Australia and stuff, but that means you're registered and fully compliant with like anti-money laundering stuff and registered. In Australia, we'd call that ASIC. So like registered to a similar one in Switzerland. Firstly, like, why was that important to do? And then secondly, can you explain how any difficulties that they've been kind of navigating the regulatory landscape? I don't know how it is in Switzerland, but I guess like with Bitcoin, that comes with like a bunch of challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no Bitcoiner, including me, likes regulation, but unfortunately, it's just something that we need to deal with. And that's, I think, also one of the few small things, as you said, that sets us apart. Thanks, by the way, for the nice words. Really appreciate it. Is that we do, even though we don't like it, we do focus on regulation. It's important to have the right licenses because it gives you credibility towards users, partners, investors. And you know, you can think what you want, but in the end, you need to comply with these things if we want to make Bitcoin big and really a global phenomenon that millions or even billions of users have access to. Then there will be no way around regulation. So we knew that from the beginning, and we thought it was very important to have the main core competencies in-house, or the main kind of building blocks of an exchange business that we in the end are, or a broker, or as you said, a financial intermediary, a financial service provider. And then there, basically the three, or let's say four main building blocks, no, let's say three main building blocks are the tech, the product needs to be great, obviously. Then the marketing needs to be also great, so that you reach out to as many people as possible in a sympathetic way. And then last but not least, legal and compliance just need to be there, so that you can even build or bring this experience, this great user experience, to the users. So, for example, at the beginning, we were only a front end, and our whole backend, the whole broker aspect of, okay, fiat money is coming in from the user, exchanging it to Bitcoin, sending it back to the user, and so forth, and all that, these technical details with how a savings plan works, for example, and then adding new payment methods like credit card, Google Pay, Apple Pay that we have now, and like hundreds of different features, was basically owned by another broker that already had this license and everything, and they just had an API and we could build on top of that. But we had no influence on any of that. So a nice example was that just from one day to the other, they added, because the on-chain fees went crazy for some reason, they just added I don't know what it was exactly, but I think $4 fixed fee per transaction from today to tomorrow. So a lot of our users back then used to buy for $10. So they just had a 40% fee all of a sudden. We were not even informed of that. Nor did we have anything to say about that, right? So it's just one example that shows how we had no influence, and you cannot work like that. So we had to build this core competency, which is the broker on the tech side, but that comes with the license and the legal and compliance side. We need to build this in-house. And so that's what we did right after raising these 2.5 million in March 21. That's where we decided, okay, we're going to use part of this money to get the license and to build our own broker. So basically, we've built what we have used before. So this whole company, we basically copy-pasted and obviously improved a lot of things so that it really fits our needs. And we got the same license like them. And then we started the process of uncoupling from them, which we ended end of last year. So since end of last year, we're now fully running on our own backend, our own broker, and our own license. And another challenge we have now that is that Switzerland is not in the EU. So we are fine for the Swiss customers, but for all of our European customers, which is at this point probably more than 70%, if not 80%, we can accept these users, but we're not necessarily able to directly advertise to them or directly acquire them through paid advertising, for example, that is targeting these markets, or to sponsor, for example, events outside of Switzerland, stuff like that. We cannot do.
Yeah.
So it's very limited. That's why we now are going after a European license. I don't know if you've heard of MiCA, Markets in Crypto Assets. It's a legal framework that's now coming up and discussed a lot in Europe. That will give us access to paid and like active marketing, active advertising in Europe. That will also give us access to European bank accounts. We now, with our license, are only able to open bank accounts with Swiss banks, not with European ones, which is a problem because people in European countries sending money to Switzerland, they get charged by their banks, and it takes like 2 or 3 times as long as if they would send money to a European bank account. But the European banks would not open a bank account to a Bitcoin company regulated in Switzerland. Once we're regulated in Europe, that will be easier. And also the whole Apple issue that we had, you can research it if you want, the listeners who are interested, but we basically got blocked on Apple, not on Android, but on Apple. And now we are finally, step by step, country by country, getting back with legal opinions, and like it's a whole process to doing that. Whereas if we had, because Apple doesn't understand and doesn't really accept the Swiss license, they don't understand that we are fine to work in other countries. They really want this like legal proofs, legal opinions from lawyers that are super expensive, blah, blah, blah. Once we have this license, this will also be solved. Yeah. So there are a lot of limitations, not only directly from the regulators, but also indirectly from banks, from the big app stores, from all sorts of companies that you want or have to work with as a startup. That just makes it way easier if you're regulated. So yeah, it all comes with the pros and cons, but I think as a fintech that we are in the end, financial service provider, there's no way around getting these licenses and becoming more and more regulated, unfortunately. And that's how you see what you see with Coinbase, with Binance, with Bitpanda, with Kraken, all of these guys that want to go big, they also go regulated.
Yeah, no, it's very true, and it's interesting to kind of hear about the restrictions are in place. Like it's quite clear that you have to jump through these hoops of these, monopolies and people who kind of run the show. I think that what is like really commendable compared to Relai, compared to like Coinbase or Binance, is that going back to what we said earlier, despite being regulated and whatever some Bitcoiners would feel about this, you guys have still kept the Bitcoiner ethos and integrity, and obviously that's something that shines through and sets you guys apart. So I think despite whatever regulatory stuff you guys need to jump through to offer that kind of product, it's commendable that you guys still offer a product that is in line with the Bitcoin vision. I'm sure it would be much easier to compromise and deviate from that and do what some other exchanges have done, and deviate from a Bitcoin viewpoint, because it is the quicker and probably cheaper way. So the fact that you guys haven't and kind of chosen the hard but like true path is a respectable thing, which is nice. And something that I'm really excited about you guys releasing, which is coming at the end of this year, I believe, is the Lightning enabled features.
Right.
I know we're tight on time, but can you give me a 60-second pitch on that?
Okay, I don't know if I need 60 seconds, but in the end, obviously from the beginning, we knew that we want to be Lightning ready. There were a lot of technical and legal details that needed to be sorted out before we could go live. But now it looks very good. I can't promise anything yet, but it looks good that by the end of this year we can go live with Lightning, which will mean that basically your Relai wallet is not only an on-chain but also a Lightning wallet. You'll be able to buy and sell instantly. So whenever you buy instantly, you get your sats also instantly to your Lightning wallet. You can do even hourly stacking or daily stacking. And you can also obviously send and receive Lightning to other Bitcoin from your Relai Lightning wallet to other Lightning wallets in 4 cents and in seconds. Just basically we are becoming Lightning, so you'll be able to do everything you can do with a Relai now just on Lightning. So, and that has a couple of very nice implications. For example, also the referral program will become instant, because whenever, for example, you use my referral code, you buy $100 in Bitcoin, I get these couple of sats that I'm earning on referral commission from you instantly. It's like when your trade settles, I get the referral commission. So everything's becoming super cheap and super instant. We'll also be able to reduce the fees, obviously, through that. So yeah, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I'm very excited to kind of hear the announcements for that. It'll be a game changer for sure, and I'm glad you guys have prioritized that. So, looking forward to hearing more about that. Julian, it's been incredible chatting with you, man. I hope we can do it again one day soon. It's there's so many more questions I'd love to delve through. So maybe we'll do a part 2 one day. But yeah, I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. Before you leave, let us know, where can people find you on social media, Relai, where can they download it, follow you online, etc., etc.
Yeah, likewise, Bailey. Thank you. I really appreciate it a lot. It's my pleasure. I'm happy to repeat that very soon. You can find me and Relai basically on the main social media channels, Twitter or X. I don't even know what to say now, and LinkedIn mainly. We also have a website where there's a contact form. You can let us know what you want there as well. Also, our DMs are open everywhere. We also are on Instagram, where you can find us, at Relai. You'll find us. Just make sure you pick the verified accounts. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Our website is full of content. We have our own podcast, Relai Bitcoin podcast. We have a newsletter with close to 10K subscribers, which is really nice, comes out weekly. We have an extensive blog that you can check out. So yeah, it's pretty easy to find us online. And obviously the app is available throughout Europe. If you're in Europe, you can download us and use us. And there's also a support chat that you can use to give us feedback, let us know. We usually answer in 24 hours. We're always happy to get your feedback.
That's awesome. Cool. I'll put all the links down below somewhere in this video. But again, thank you so much, Julian. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.